Okay, before we even properly introduce the topic today, I want you to do something just for a second. Close your eyes. I want you to just listen.
Okay.
Imagine a soundscape. It's chaotic. It's this rhythmic, almost staccato montage of overlapping voices.
Like a debate or an argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A real cacophony. You're hearing words being thrown around like evidence, blind faith, surrender, and then logic, hellfire, choice. They're all fighting for space, you know? And then underneath all of that noise, there's this beat. It's a mechanical clockwork sound. Tick, tick, almost like a machine working perfectly, or maybe a bomb counting down.
And what happens to the beat?
Well, this is the cool part. It starts to slow. It morphs. It softens. And it stops being a clock. And it becomes a heartbeat. Thump, 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 come.
I see. From the mechanical to the biological. From the cold machine to the, well, to the human.
That's it. That's the sonic landscape for what we're doing today. We're calling this deep dive the Doxastic dialectic.
Doxastic. Okay, that is a $5 word to start us off with.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It comes from the Greek doxa, which it means belief. We're essentially stepping into the courtroom of the mind. We're putting belief itself on trial.
And what's the central charge?
The central question we are wrestling with today, and it's all based on this incredible chapter from the book Reasoned Conviction, a chapter called The Ethics of Belief and Doxastic Voluntarism. The question is one that, honestly, it really haunts me.
Which is?
Is faith an intellectual surrender? I mean, is it a moral crime to believe in something specifically God without what we'd call sufficient evidence?
Or is there a completely different way to look at the whole mechanism of belief itself?
Right. It feels like we're setting up a battle here. On one side, you have the empiricist, the person who demands cold, hard data. And on the other, the rationalist, who claims to see the data in a totally different way.
And to really understand the stakes, I think we have to start with a story. It's a classic in philosophy.
It is, and it's not a happy story. This is the story that really sets the stage for the prosecution's case.
This has to be the famous ship owner analogy from W.K. Clifford.
It is. It's from W.K. Clifford, a 19th century mathematician and philosopher who, to put it mildly, had absolutely zero patience for sloppy thinking.
Okay, set the scene.
So I want you to imagine a ship owner. He's standing on a dock in London, let's say it's around 1870. The fog is rolling in off the Thames, and he's watching his ship being loaded up.
And this isn't some state-of-the-art vessel?
Oh, far from it.
Yeah.
It's an emigrant ship. It's old. It's seen way too many voyages. The wood is rotting in places. The structure is clearly compromised. I mean, honestly, if you looked at it closely, you'd say it belongs in a scrapyard, not setting out across the Atlantic.
But refitting an old ship like that would be incredibly expensive.
Incredibly expensive, yeah. And it would take time. And the ship owner, he has tickets to sell. He has a schedule to keep. So he's standing there on the dock, and he has this doubt, a very specific nagging doubt in the back of his mind. Is this ship actually seaworthy?
That's his conscience speaking up. The little voice.
It is.
Yeah.
But then, and I think we've all done this in some small way, he starts to argue with himself. He starts to actively suppress that doubt.
He rationalizes.
Totally. He says to himself, well, she's sailed so many voyages before. She's weathered so many storms. Why wouldn't she make it just one more time? He starts looking for reasons to feel good, not reasons to know the truth.
He's seeking comfort, not verification.
Precisely. He tells himself, I am putting my trust in Providence.
Yeah.
He actually starts to feel a glow of benevolence. He thinks about all those families on board, going to start a new life in America. He wishes them well. He dismisses that nagging doubt as just silly anxiety. And he watches the ship sail away with a genuinely light heart.
And the ship.
The ship sinks
That's too.
in the middle of the ocean. Every single man, woman, and child on board drowns. It is a complete and utter catastrophe.
And what happens to the owner?
The owner collects the insurance money. And he tells his neighbors, and this is the chilling part, he tells them with complete sincerity, it is a terrible tragedy, but it was in God's hands.
That is, oh, wow. It's just so infuriating.
It makes you want to punch him, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. But here's the really tricky part, and this is Clifford's entire point. The owner wasn't lying at the end. He did believe the ship was safe. By the time that ship left the dock, he had genuinely, truly convinced himself.
And this is the moment where W.K. Clifford slams his gavel down on the desk and basically screams at all of us from the 19th century. He says, and I'm quoting here, he had no right to believe on such evidence as was before him.
No right to believe. That phrasing is so powerful.
It's a moral claim. Clifford argues that the owner is guilty of the deaths of all those people, not because he wanted them to die, of course not, but because he had a moral obligation to investigate. He had a duty to doubt.
And by suppressing that doubt, by choosing the comfort of a flimsy faith over the hard work of checking the evidence, he committed a crime.
A moral crime. And Clifford doesn't just stop at the ship owner, does he? He broadens the scope.
Oh, he extends it to everyone. It's not just about ship owners and immigrants.
No, it's about you. It's about me. It's about how we form our beliefs every single day. Clifford's famous ultimatum is this: it is wrong, always, everywhere, and for anyone to believe anything upon insufficient evidence.
Always, everywhere, and for anyone. I mean, that is as absolute a standard as you can possibly get.
It is. And I have to be honest, when I first read that, my knee-jerk reaction was to push back hard. I mean, come on, always. If I believe my favorite sports team is going to win this weekend, even though they're the underdog, am I committing some kind of moral crime?
Right, or if I believe my friend is innocent of an accusation before I see all the evidence just because I trust their character, is that a sin? It feels, I don't know, robotic. It feels like it strips the humanity out of belief.
That's how I felt. But then you have to think about the context of our source material, and you have to think about right now, we are living in an age of rampant misinformation. We are living in a time where believing a conspiracy theory about a vaccine can literally kill you or your neighbor.
That's a very fair point. If I believe some miracle cure I saw on the internet works without any evidence, and I give it to my sick child instead of actual medicine, then I am the ship owner.
You are the ship owner. Exactly.
Yeah.
Clifford is basically arguing that our beliefs are not these private little treasures we keep locked in a box in our heads. Beliefs are the blueprints for our actions. And if your blueprint is flawed, the building is going to collapse.
And if the building collapses, people get hurt.
So the argument from the prosecution here is that faith, when it's defined as believing without sufficient evidence, is not a virtue. It's a vice. It is intellectual surrender. It is, and I love this phrase from the source, comfort sought too fast.
And from the perspective of the atheist or the pure empiricist, this is really the central charge against religion. They look at religious people, and in their mind, they're seeing the ship owner. They're saying, you are believing in a safe voyage to heaven or in a just God without ever checking the hull of the ship. You're actively suppressing the doubts. Things like science or the problem of suffering or the silence from the heavens because it just feels better to believe.
And therefore, faith is intellectually dishonest.
Yeah.
It's a moral failing.
That is the charge. And you have to admit, it is a very, very strong charge.
It is. It feels almost unanswerable.
It does. And it leads us directly into what the source calls the volitional paradox. Because if Clifford is right, if we have a moral duty to only believe things based on evidence, then we have to ask a really fundamental question about how the human brain even works.
Which is, can we actually choose what we believe?
This is the concept of doxastic voluntarism.
Which absolutely sounds like a spell from a fantasy novel.
It really does. Cast doxastic voluntarism.
But let's break it down. Doxa is Greek for belief. Voluntas is Latin for will. So the question is belief an act of will? Can you wake up one morning and just decide, you know what, today I will believe X?
Okay, let's test it. I want to run the little thought experiment from the source material. It's called the green sky experiment. I love this one. It is so simple, but so frustratingly effective.
Okay, so for everyone listening, I want you to actually participate. I want you to look up. If you're outside, look at the sky. If you're inside, just look at a white wall. Or even just visualize the sky in your mind.
We all know it's blue. Let's just assume it's a clear day. The sky is blue.
Right. Now, I'm going to make you an offer. I am putting $10 million on the table, cash, tax-free. It's all yours.
Okay, I'm listening.
All you have to do is, right now, in this very second, genuinely believe that the sky is neon green.
And let's be super clear here. You don't have to say it's green. You don't have to try and pass a lie detector test. You just have to truly, in your own internal world, be convinced beyond a doubt that the sky is green.
Go on. Try it. Really try. Force your brain. Strain your belief muscle. I'm trying. I'm really, really trying. I'm saying, it's green, it's green, it's green, over and over in my head.
Do you believe it?
No, not even a tiny bit. It's
Wow.
blue. All the data from my eyes is screaming blue at me. I can't just overwrite the data with my will.
And right there, you have just proven the concept of doxastic involuntarism.
Which means what, exactly?
It means, for the most part, we are slaves to evidence. Our minds are like mirrors. If you stand a blue object in front of a mirror, the mirror has no choice but to reflect the color blue. You cannot will the mirror to reflect green. The belief just happens to you based on the input.
This feels like we're walking into a trap.
It is a trap, and it's a trap that leads to what the source calls the theological trap, or even more pointedly, the cruelty of judgment.
Okay, walk me through this.
Yeah.
Because if I can't choose my beliefs...
Then how can a just God possibly punish you for them?
Oh, wow, right.
Think it all the way through. If God created your mind to work like a mirror, to require evidence to form a belief, and then he, for whatever reason, hides himself so that there is no direct, undeniable evidence.
And like he condemns me to hell for an eternity, because my mind, which he designed, didn't believe.
Exactly. It would be like punishing a blind man for bumping into furniture in a dark room. It would be like punishing you for having good eyesight that correctly identified the color of the sky as blue.
So it's basically punishing someone for having a logical mind. It's like God is saying, I gave you this incredible brain that detects truth and follows evidence, but to be saved, you have to break it. You have to sacrifice your intellect.
It frames God as an unjust tyrant. It makes faith seem like a degradation of the human mind, a flaw, not a virtue. And if that's true, then Clifford is 100% right. Faith is a mistake.
Man, that is bleak. We are, 10, 15 minutes in, and I feel like we've just logically dismantled the foundation of most religion.
It really does feel that way, doesn't it? It feels like checkmate.
Yeah.
The empiricist wins. But this is a deep dive, and what I found is that usually when you hit a wall that looks this solid and impenetrable, it means you're just looking at it from the wrong angle.
So where's the door in this wall? How does the rationalist, specifically the Quranic perspective in our source text, how does it respond to this seemingly perfect trap?
Well, this is the pivot. This is where everything shifts. The empiricist, W.K. Clifford, he starts with an assumption. He assumes that religion demands blind faith. He assumes the green sky scenario is what God wants from us. Ignore the blue sky your eyes see and just believe it's green because I said so.
Right. That's the common criticism. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. Just take a leap in the dark.
But our source material throws a massive wrench into that assumption. It argues that the Quran agrees with Clifford.
Wait. Pause right there. The Quran agrees with the 19th century atheist mathematician.
On one hugely important point, yes. That blind, baseless faith is invalid.
Okay, I need you to back that up with some evidence, because that goes against almost everything I've ever absorbed about religion from pop culture.
Let's look at the text itself. The source cites chapter 8, verse 22 of the Quran. And the language it uses is, frankly, shocking, it says. The worst of creatures in the sight of God are the deaf and dumb who do not use reason.
The worst of creatures. That's incredibly aggressive.
It's the most extreme condemnation imaginable. And notice who is being condemned. It isn't the sinner in the traditional sense of someone who commits theft or adultery. It is the person who does not use their reason, the person who voluntarily suspends their intellect.
So in essence, the Quran is calling the blind believer subhuman.
In a way, yes. It argues that the defining characteristic of a human being is aql, which is intellect, reason, the rational faculty. To shut that off is to degrade yourself to the level of an animal that acts only on instinct.
Okay, so if the Quranic model is not blind faith, then what is it?
The source defines the concept of Iman, the word we usually translate as faith, in a very, very different way. It defines it as reasoned conviction.
Reasoned conviction, not blind faith.
Exactly. The linguistic root of the word Iman is and means safety or security.
Like security in a bunker during a storm.
More like the security you feel knowing that the ground beneath your feet will hold you. Think about it in your own life. When do you feel truly secure in an idea? Is it when you're just hoping it's true? Or is it when you have tested it, you've stressed it, you've looked at it from every angle, and you've become convinced?
It's when I've proven it to myself. If I'm about to walk onto a high bridge, I feel secure because I can see the steel beams, I understand the basic physics of the engineering. It's not a guess.
That's the idea. Iman is meant to be the result of a rigorous process. The source emphasizes three key Arabic terms here. Aql, which is the intellect itself, tafakkur, which is deep reflection or thought, and tadabbur, which is contemplation, especially of outcomes.
So the equation isn't close your eyes plus believe really hard, is faith.
No. The equation, according to this perspective, is open your eyes plus process the data, conviction, and security.
Okay, I have to admit, I like the sound of that. Process the data. It's appealing. But now I have to put my skeptic hat back on. I have to channel my inner Clifford again.
Please do.
It's all well and good to say process the data. But my question is, where is the data?
Yeah.
If I want to believe in gravity, I can drop this pen, it falls, boom, data. If I want to believe in the theory of evolution, I could look at the fossil record, data. If I
Yeah.
want to believe in God, I look around my room and I see a coffee cup. I see a microphone. I see traffic outside. Where is the God data?
And this question, where is the data? This brings us to what I think is the most beautiful and visual part of the source material. This is the whole section on signs on the horizon.
The ayat.
Yes, the ayah. In Arabic, a single verse of the Quran is called an ayah, but the literal meaning of the word ayah is sign, like a road sign, or a beacon showing you the way.
Okay.
So the rationalist argument is this. You're asking for data. You are drowning in data. The problem isn't a lack of evidence. The problem is one of processing. The universe itself is a text waiting to be read.
The universe as a text. That sounds incredibly poetic, but let's get concrete. What does this text actually say?
The source does a fantastic breakdown of one specific verse. It's verse 164 from the second chapter. And instead of reading it like a prayer or a piece of poetry, I want us to read it like a laboratory report. It's just listing specific empirical phenomena.
All right, lay it on me. What's the first data point?
Item 1, the creation of the heavens and the earth.
Okay, so cosmology, the Big Bang, the fine-tuning of universal constants, the fundamental fact that there is something here rather than nothing. That's a huge data point.
Item 2, the alternation of the night and the day.
Planetary mechanics,
Yeah.
the precise rotation of the Earth on its axis, the stability of our orbit around the sun, which gives us predictable seasons and a climate that can support life.
Got it. Item 3, and this is the one I really want to dig into because it seems so mundane at first. The ships which sail through the sea with that which benefits people.
Ships. See, this is where I get a little stuck. It feels like we just took a giant leap from the fundamental nature of the cosmos all the way down to boats. Why are boats a sign of God? That just sounds like human engineering.
It is human engineering, but the verse is asking us to consider what makes that engineering possible in the first place.
Well, physics, buoyancy.
Dig deeper. Think about what the ocean is. It is a chaotic, terrifying, deadly expanse of salt water. We are terrestrial creatures with lungs. We should not, by any rights, be able to traverse it.
That's true. We're completely out of our element.
But look at the specific underlying laws of the universe. Archimedes' principle of buoyancy. The density of water is calibrated in such a precise way that a less dense material, like wood or a shaped hull of steel, can displace it and float.
Okay.
And then think about the winds. They are generated by atmospheric heat differentials driven by the sun in a way that is consistent and predictable enough that for thousands of years we could harness them with sails for propulsion. The Quran is asking you to look at the environment itself as being, well, programmable.
So you're saying the sign isn't the boat that we built, but the entire physical system, the user interface of the planet, that allows the boat to work.
Yes, and notice the verse adds that crucial phrase, with that which benefits people. It connects the abstract physics directly to human utility, global trade, exploration, the exchange of ideas and cultures. The Quran is asking, why is the universe configured in such a way that it not only exists, but it actively supports the flourishing of complex human civilization?
It's the fine-tuning argument, or the Goldilocks principle, but on a planetary scale. The porridge is just right for us to build boats.
Precisely. If water was significantly more or less dense, we couldn't do it. If the atmosphere was thinner, we wouldn't have useful wind. If the Earth's core wasn't magnetic, we wouldn't have a way to navigate with a compass. The sign is the incredible, improbable convergence of thousands of independent variables to create a user-friendly platform for human life.
Okay, that makes sense of the ships. What about the rain? The source brings up the rain reviving the dead earth.
Again, look at this not as poetry, but as a scientific observation. Think about it through the lens of a desert Arab in the 7th century or a modern biologist. You have a patch of land that is, for all intents and purposes, dead. It's dry. It's dust. There is no visible life.
Right.
Then water falls from the sky. And let's not just gloss over that. It's desalinated water, by the way, distilled from the salty oceans by the power of the sun.
Which is essentially a massive solar-powered desalination plant hanging in the sky.
And this purified water falls on the dust.
Yeah.
And what happens? Suddenly, dormant seeds, which might have been lying there inert for years, are triggered. A genetic sequence is activated. They sprout. They harness solar energy through photosynthesis, turning it into chlorophyll and creating food. The Quran cites this process as a direct empirical parallel to the concept of resurrection.
So it's saying, you doubt that I can bring the dead back to life. I do it in your backyard every single spring.
That's exactly the argument. So to the rationalist, these phenomena are not just scenery, they're not just nature, they are ayat. They are data points screaming for an explanation.
And the source quotes the very end of that verse, which ties it all together. Signs for a people who use reason. Nikwamen yakulon.
For a people who use reason, that is the crucial caveat. The data is constantly broadcasting, but you have to have the receiver turned on and tuned to the right frequency.
Okay, so let's accept this premise just for the sake of the argument. The universe is a broadcast. The ships, the rain, the stars, it's all data screaming designed or purpose or creator.
Yes, that's the claim.
But this brings us right back to the problem of choice, doesn't it? If the data is so obvious, if the signal is so clear, why is W.K. Clifford still an atheist? Why do brilliant scientists who understand buoyancy and the water cycle better than anyone look at the very same ships and rain and just see undirected physics?
That is the million-dollar question. If the sky is so obviously blue, why do some people see God while others just see randomness?
And is that perception involuntary? Are some people just, I don't know, tone deaf to the divine frequency? Because if that's the case, we are right back to the cruelty of judgment. You can't blame a tone-deaf person for not enjoying Mozart.
And this is where the source introduces the final piece of the puzzle. It's what it calls the mechanism of the heart. And it attempts to solve this volitional paradox by introducing a middle ground.
A middle ground between I can choose what to believe and I have no choice at all.
Exactly. It's a concept called indirect voluntarism.
Indirect voluntarism. Okay, you need to unpack that for me.
Let's use the garden analogy from the source. I think this is crucial. Imagine you want a tomato.
I would love a fresh tomato right now.
Can you, in this moment, snap your fingers and just force a ripe tomato to appear in your hand?
No, of course not. That would be magic.
Right. That would be direct voluntarism, attempting to force the final result into existence by an act of will. It doesn't work with beliefs any more than it works with tomatoes. But can you cause a tomato to eventually exist?
Well, yeah, of course. I can go out and buy a seed. I can plant it in good soil. I can water it every day. I can make sure it gets enough sun and protect it from pests.
Exactly. You cannot control the fruit directly. You can't will it into being. But you have absolute 100% control over the conditions. You can cultivate the environment in which the growth of the tomato becomes almost inevitable.
I see exactly where you're going with this. Belief is the tomato.
Belief is the fruit. The source argues that you cannot simply choose to believe in a vacuum. You can't flip that light switch. But you can choose where you aim the flashlight of your attention. You can choose how you process what you see.
So the actionable steps are not believe harder, like some kind of mental weightlifting.
No. The actionable steps are things like reflect deeper, investigate your own biases, practice intellectual humility, seek out challenging information.
We control the inputs. We don't directly control the output, but we control the inputs. We control the inputs. We choose whether to really dwell on the mind-boggling complexity of a single living cell or just take it for granted. We choose whether to see the rain as a miracle of atmospheric chemistry and biology or just as an inconvenience that ruins our picnic.
The source material specifically brings up confirmation bias.
Right. A huge part of tending the garden is actively fighting against our own biases. We can voluntarily choose to only read authors who already agree with us. We can choose to immediately dismiss any piece of evidence that makes us uncomfortable. Those are choices. Those are voluntary actions. And those actions determine the quality of the soil in our hearts.
So if I nurture the soil, if I'm humble, open-minded, consistently reflective, the fruit of belief is more likely to grow. If I poison the soil, if I'm arrogant, distracted, cynical, never questioning my own assumptions, then belief withers and dies.
That is the essence of indirect voluntarism, and this leads us to the really terrifying flip side of this coin. If belief is a garden that we tend to be, what is disbelief?
This is where we get into the concept of Kufr.
Kufr. Now, in modern pop culture, this has become a very scary word. It's often used as a slur. Infidel, unbeliever, it sounds like a harsh tribal label.
You're either with us or against us.
Exactly. But the source does something brilliant. It dives into the etymology, the linguistic DNA of the word, and it's absolutely fascinating. The root verb, kfr, literally means to cover or to conceal.
To cover something up.
Yes. And get this. In pre-Islamic Arabia, do you know who is often called a kafir in a non-religious context?
A non-Muslim.
An idol worshiper.
Oh, a farmer.
A farmer. Why on earth a farmer?
Because what does a farmer do? He takes a valuable seed full of potential and he covers it with soil. He conceals it in the earth. That physical action covering something up is the root meaning of the word.
That completely changes the meaning. So theologically, Kufr doesn't mean I'm ignorant or I don't know.
No, it implies I know, or at least I see the potential, and I am actively covering it up.
So it's not a passive state of ignorance. It's an active act of suppression. Precisely. The source argues that true kufr, the kind that carries any moral weight, is an active volitional rejection of a recognized truth. It is seeing the sign and deliberately turning away.
It's the flashlight analogy that the text uses.
Right. It's a great analogy. Imagine you are in a pitch black room. You have no idea where the exit is. If you stumble around and can't find it, you aren't to blame. You're just in the dark. That's ignorance.
But then, someone shines a flashlight. The beam hits a door on the far wall. You see the door.
Yep.
You recognize it for what it is.
And then you squeeze your eyes shut. You turn your back to it. You say to yourself, there is no door. It was just a trick of the light.
That is a completely different moral act than just stumbling in the dark.
That, in this worldview, is kufr. And the source backs this up with scripture. It cites verse 2.89, which says, when there came to them that which they recognized, they disbelieved in it.
That which they recognized, the recognition comes first.
Recognition precedes rejection. You cannot cover something you haven't on some level already seen or perceived.
So this completely redefines the crime of disbelief. The crime isn't being unconvinced by a bad argument. The crime is being intellectually dishonest with yourself.
It is the willful silencing of that divine frequency we talked about. It's the person who has that fleeting moment of profound awe looking up at the stars, that little flicker of intuition that there's something more, and then immediately distracts themselves. They pull out their phone, they make a cynical joke, they change the subject, they bury the seed because they are afraid of what will grow from it.
Why would they be afraid?
Because if the seed grows, if God is real, then you are accountable. Then your life isn't entirely your own. You might have to change. You might have to give up things you enjoy. You have to submit your will to a higher will. And the human ego hates, more than anything, the idea of submission.
So Kufr is a defense mechanism. It's the ego protecting itself from the radical implications of the truth.
It is the high art of ignoring the elephant in the room because you don't want to have to clean up after it.
Okay, this whole framework, it makes a lot of internal sense. It solves the cruelty of judgment problem. Because God isn't punishing blindness. He's judging the person who chose to wear a blindfold.
Exactly.
Bug OT. I have to stop you again. I have to play devil's advocate. Because I know people, good people, smart people, deeply honest people who have looked, they've sincerely tended their gardens, they've studied the Quran, they've studied the Bible, they've looked at the ships in the rain with an open mind, and they still don't believe.
You honest atheists?
Yes, the sincere seekers who just don't see it. Is this framework saying they're all secretly covering something? Is it saying they're all deep down liars? Because that sounds incredibly arrogant. It sounds like, oh, you don't agree with me, you must just be suppressing the undeniable truth.
And that is the absolute danger of misapplying this argument. It can very easily curdle into a tool for judging others, for smugly dismissing anyone who disagrees. But the source material itself introduces a crucial failsafe. It's what it calls the capacity principle.
This is from verse 6.152.
Yes, a verse that appears in various forms throughout the Quran. We charge no soul except with that within its capacity.
That within its capacity. So it's not a one-size-fits-all judgment.
Not at all. This is the bedrock of divine justice in this worldview. God is not a bureaucrat with a checklist. God is the creator who designed the soul and knows the specific hardware and software limitations of every single individual.
So if I genuinely, honestly cannot perceive the signal, if my receiver is just built differently,
if your capacity is limited, maybe because of a past trauma, maybe because of the specific way you were raised, maybe due to a lack of access to clear information, or maybe just how your brain is wired, then you are not judged for failing to do what you could not do.
so the final judgment is calibrated to the individual.
It is hyper-calibrated. The source implies that judgment isn't based on the final answer you wrote down on the test, but on the honest exertion of your effort. Did you genuinely try? Did you honestly tend your garden with the tools you had? Did you use the flashlight you were given?
So if you did your absolute best with the mind and heart you have, and you still ended up confused or unconvinced,
Then God is understood to be the just and the merciful. He doesn't judge the mask. He judges the heart behind it.
there's a phrase from the source notes that really stuck with me. It said, "Justice holds the soul to task for the choices made behind the chosen mask."
Behind the chosen mask. That's it. We all wear masks. We have our public personas, our clever arguments, the debates we like to win on social media. But deep down in the absolute quiet of our own consciousness, when no one else is looking, we know.
We know if we're genuinely seeking truth or if we're just defending our position.
We know if we're turning the volume up to hear better or if we're turning it down because we don't like the song.
And that brings us right back to the soundscape we started with, the heartbeat, the frequency.
The Doxastic dialectic.
We began with W.K. Clifford shouting at us from the 19th century that faith is a moral crime because it lacks sufficient evidence.
And we found, surprisingly, that the Quran agrees blind, irrational faith is a crime against the intellect God gave us.
We went looking for the evidence and found that the rationalist perspective sees the entire universe, from cosmology to biology, as a massive data-rich text.
The ships, the rain, the physics, the biology, all of it presented as ayat, all of them signs for those who reason.
But because we are doxastic and voluntarists, because we can't just flip a belief switch on and off, we realize that our primary job is to be gardeners of our own hearts.
We tend the soil, we control the inputs, we practice humility, and we engage in reflection.
And finally, we realize that the only crime in this framework is Kufr. Not ignorance, but the active covering of a recognized truth. The refusal to acknowledge what, on some level, we know to be true.
So the question we want to leave you with today, the final provocative thought, is all about that volume dial.
The source material suggests that the universe is broadcasting on a certain frequency, 20/7, a signal of design, of mercy, of purpose.
And if you aren't hearing it, if you are standing in the middle of a grand concert hall during a symphony and all you hear is silence,
You have to ask yourself a very honest question. Is the orchestra not playing? Are you deaf?
Or have you simply, quietly turned the volume all the way down because the music is demanding that you dance?
Because the music demands that you dance. Wow. That is both terrifying and beautiful.
It is. It puts the responsibility right back on us.
I think I need to go look at a tomato plant and have a small existential crisis.
Do that. And look at the clouds and the ships, if you can see any.
Thanks for diving deep with us. After we sign off, maybe just listen to the silence for a moment, see what you hear.